Plugin of the week is the Roland Dimension D. The Roland Dimension D has been emulated, the only official version that I know of, by Roland, by Universal Audio. And so here you see I have it on a demo version here, and I'm going to buy it because when I first put this up, it was like, oh my God, I remember why I got this thing. This is one of those classic devices where it's like there are some devices historically, and they kind of do one thing. They don't have a lot of flexibility, not a ton of options, but whatever they do, they just do it really, really well. So there's some really cool functional things where it's like, hey, this is not going to work on everything. You don't have a lot of controls, but you plug it in, and when it's right, it just rocks. The idea of this is it's basically like a chorus effect. And what it does is it creates a spatial spreading that does not have a lot of modulation characteristics. So it's very kind of a like a spreading or widening effect that is done in a very subtle, kind of transparent kind of way. And I may exaggerate it here, for example, but it's so dead simple that, the way that you work it is just like a matter of selecting 4 buttons. So you really basically have 3 basic control sections. You have the on-off button, right? So you see the Dimension D model SDD320. You have the mono stereo mode. Now this button is actually on the rear of the device. So when you're actually clicking into this, what you're doing is what it does is it takes the stereo input and it will combine or mono the left-right signal before feeding it in. So it becomes effectively a mono in, stereo out. So you can do that. So if you're feeding it from a stereo send, by default it comes in stereo. So if you're feeding into it stereo, it'll just work stereo. Otherwise, it'll go mono to stereo, which was more or less the typical way that people used it in studios, because you're always trying to conserve sends. If you had like 6 or 8 sends on your console, you could also use the multi-track buses. So if you were on a 48 bus console, you would have those buses, and those would be all of your sends, which would be quite a lot. You still have to feed up to them. And that's a whole other story. I won't get into the routing of that, but a lot of times this was used with a mono input, not a stereo input. You have 4 options here, and actually more than that, because as with the actual device, when you select the different, what they call dimension modes here, you get a variation of the chorus effect. And if you hold the shift key, you can do any combination of the 4 buttons. So if you do, I don't know if that's a 4 factorial, however, maybe you get like 16 options, something along those lines of the different button combinations. So any 1, 2, 3, or combination of 4 with all of them and all of them in. I don't think it quite works out exactly that way like a factorial, because it's always in the same order. But anyway, forget about the math kind of stuff on that end. So let's have a listen. So this is a typical thing that you would use like on a bass or on a vocal. So we'll kind of hear it. So this is like, and this is loud, right? So here, just to kind of show you what this is like without it. I'm going to take this Neve compressor off here. So what we're doing is we're getting like just setting 1 like a spreading effect. And it adds like a nice little bit of, depth to the sound, basically, is the way to do it. It's like a chorus effect. It only goes width, but it has a lot of depth to it. And then you start to hear it more as you go to the higher dimension modes. And then let's go back. So really simple. Now I can do combinations. So here with this, I can get kind of variations, which add like a different characteristic sound, like subtle tonal variations. And I kind of like the number 2 setting. So here, this is just like something that you would feed in on a send return type of thing. Because there's no wet dry control on this, it's not something that you would place typically on the insert of a track unless you wanted it to be kind of fully chorused. But a really cool, just, like classic chorus sound, simple, no like modulation controls, no nothing. You just click on some buttons and watch it go. So let me just see here. This is I'll just set up another bus here and just check this out with the vocal just so you can get a sense of what that's like.
I picture her right in front of me. She's the mountains and I'm the sea. Her cliffs look down inviting me to crash against the shore, increase in a breeze. Hey, had a vision that fades away.
This sounds pretty cool.
The two of us living happily in the jungle under the trees, singing harmonies with the birds and bees. Hey, don't wanna end up with war inside. Don't wanna end up with war inside. Don't wanna end up with war inside. Cause when
it almost sounds like an increase in the delay time, so it sounds a little bit more slap-like with the 4
right
setting.
In front of me. She's the mountains and I'm the sea. Her cliffs look down inviting me to crash against the shore, increase in a breeze. Hey, had a vision that fades away.
And this almost has like an early reflection kind of effect.
In the jungle under the trees, singing harmonies with the birds and bees. Hey, don't wanna end up with war inside. Don't wanna end up with war inside. Don't wanna end up with war inside. Cause when there's war inside, you got no place to hide now. Now she's dropping the bomb on me. Like a prisoner, she must be free. The gun go off inside my head. Can't protect myself, my ego's full of lead now. So many nights,
everyone has sort of like a unique thing. It's hard to tell which one I really like because they all do very cool different things.
Right in front of me. She's the mountains and I'm the sea. Her cliffs look down inviting me to crash against the shore, increase in a breeze. Hey, had a vision that fades away. The two of us living happily in the jungle under the trees, singing harmonies with the birds and bees. Hey, don't wanna end up with war inside. Don't wanna end up with war inside. Don't wanna end up with war inside. Cause when there's war inside, you got no place to hide now. Now she's dropping the bomb on me. Like a prisoner, she must be free. The gun go off inside my head.
So really like that number 3 setting, and it's a really cool plugin because it gives you this sort of combination of almost like a static kind of chorus effect. You don't really hear the modulation as much in terms of the phasiness of it that you can kind of get with a modulation plugin. So sometimes if you set up a chorus effect with a short delay and you can kind of warm it up or really make the modulation very, very slow so you don't hear that shifting. Another way to do it is to sort of pitch up a couple of cents and down a cent on either side and do a spread like that. But this has kind of a really unique thing. You don't really know what it does. It doesn't tell you what it does in the manual. It's a really short manual. It just kind of says, got 4 buttons, hit any combination of them or multiple combinations of them, find a kind of cool sound that you like, and you go. And it's a very, 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 simple and very cool plugin. This was like a classic plugin that was just, if you saw it, like every engineer was excited to have this on their mix, and a lot of studios had them. They weren't hard to find. You don't hear them talked about a whole lot, but when you go ahead and put it on something, you really, really, really feel it, and it's such an awesome device, the Dimension D. So a real favorite of mine from going back to my more like pro studio days when I was in studios on a daily basis and working. This was just like a real go-to thing, especially for bass sounds. Really amazing, especially for R&B bass sounds, where the chorus effect fits a little bit more. Not so much on this type of thing. It's a little, takes away from some of the punchiness in a funk track like this. But, for like a vocal spreading effect, it's like kind of a perfect thing for this type of thing, or maybe even a guitar effect. So very cool one. The Roland Dimension D. Not the one that necessarily rolls off the tongue when you first get it, but a very, very cool one, and one that's worth adding to your plugin collection.